think we'll be able to get to the next dungeon. I won't be able to do any exploration on it, but at the very least I'll be able to beat Porcelain Forest. I'll have to consult the walkthrough. Let's see if I'm needing anything. Oh yeah, 100% damage at 5 is good enough for me. I need this violet tail apparently. Balisong. Another Filipino sounding weapon. What do I need the violet tail for? The lack of a proper defender kind of makes this a non-ideal team for me. Whatever.
Place in the spawner and still get the looting effect applied to them, which without a doubt is one of the cheapest ways to get looting attached to your weapon. It doesn't even take a hit to the sword's durability. And while you can unfortunately only hold 16 snowballs at a time while doing this, with how effective snowballs are against blazes, you're still gonna be alright. And as long as you save some of the snowballs to make a snow golem farm back home, it's also renewable, and you can't beat that. Ever since 1.16, AFK fish farms have been nerfed. I'm not gonna deny that. But what they lack in treasure, they still have a lot to offer. For one, fish. There's also plenty of experience points that you can get from fishing as well. And once it's easy to build, there's really no reason to not have one of these in your world. Especially if you place it next to another place where you need to AFK. That way you're activating 2 farms at once, which alone would be a good deal, which is made all the better by how much food you're able to get from this method. Just waterlog a fence, place down a golden pressure plate on top, and then with an iron trap door and a no block place like so, you'll have yourself an infinite food farm regardless of where you put this in your world. When we talk about Minecraft traps, cake probably isn't top of your list. But here's why it should be. Since silly as it may seem, if you trap your friend in a case of cake like this, and then replace the floor underneath them with a piece of soul sand, and we add a water source block, we'll trap them inside of a
Now, if I could get rid of Inspire,
because
it is kinda useless,
and at that point, their best way out
that'd
is
be
if they're
great.
hungry, which I've
I
never
can
seen
get-
anyone eat a full cake in Minecraft, so they might
well,
be
you'll
there
only
for
be
a
able to
while.
get
If
Devil's
you're like me,
Candle
then you're
with it.
terrible with a bow and arrow. And unfortunately for us, that makes it really tough to get this advancement from bullseye. Don't worry, this will make it simple. Since all we need to do is put a trapdoor on top of our target block, shoot an arrow right into the center, and then once we're 30 blocks away, we can have either a friend or redstone flip the trapdoor open. At which point it counts as
See
if
what
we
level
shot
10
the arrow
fifth
from back
mastery
here, and
gives.
we easily get the advancement. And hey, you can do the same for the sniper duel achievement as well. Just switch out the target block for a different kind of target. Easy as that. As soon as you start to get resources that you need to smelt, you should not be wasting time individually putting them into different furnaces. Instead, with the help of the chest bow, we're able to position one of these on top of a bed of hoppers so that it'll evenly
really isn't
disperse
that
all of our
great.
items across all of these different furnaces. And just like that, we're smelting 9 times faster than we would in a regular smelter. Change them out for blast furnaces, it goes up to 18 times faster. And then by doing something like Puffing Fish HQ shows off with this design, we can have another chest minecart go around the outside and fill up all of our furnaces with fuel. And don't worry, they store the XP, so when you eventually go through and break all these furnaces, you're still going to get the rewards that you want. There's really no downside to doing this. And if you're looking to find the iron to build that super smelter, your best bet isn't to find it down in the caves. Those are the ways that ores generate since the Caves and Cliffs update. You're actually going to have pretty good luck finding this up in the mountains. And if I'm being honest, even if that was true, I wouldn't want to go dig inside of a mountain to find my iron. But the good news is, you don't even need to.
Even though we're not siding with her political preference, she's being so nice to us.
It's a lot safer than heading down into a dark cave. You can also find coal up here too, just so you have something to smell all that iron that you're getting. Lighting up your base is great, but you never want to be too obvious about it. Having a torch on the ground doesn't look the best, is what I'm trying to say. But luckily, there is a way for us to hide it. Since you place down a torch and then have an armor stand entity drop on top of it. Then after you suit up that armor stand with whatever armor of your choice, then you'll have successfully made hidden lighting within your base. I'm not saying that you should go and spam a bunch of armor stands around your base. That looks more awkward than torches. I think looking for little alternatives like this can really make a difference when you can. Every time that you see a hopper, there's a hidden cost of fire by ingots and a chest. But what if I told you that a way to cut down on this is to just use the chest and forget the hopper? Instead, alternating like this, let's cut down.
I really like this side quest.
And the
This
hopper's
one's my
chest is
personal
still full the way
favorite.
that we used to. So I'm happy to get set up an iron farm.
Partly because it really isn't all that difficult, but also because it characterizes some of the people in this place. Makes the place feel much more lived in.
And as you can see in this example from Raceworks, if you tie your lay to a lead and have a bomb attack you, you might just have yourself the deadliest void in Minecraft. But if you do want to try this out, I have to give one warning, which is that even though the Allays tend to regenerate a lot of health, there are still a few mobs that can kill mobs. So to keep them safe and on your side, you might want to have a couple of Allays doing this. That way the damage is getting evenly
Do I need
dispersed
to ask
across the
again?
ground. And if you really need to keep your Allays from dying, Your real get-out-jail-free card here is that if you give your relay a totem of 9, and they can use it just like we would. And there you go. Take them from hardcore mode right back to
Talking to everyone always helps, I
That's
suppose.
not the only mob they want to keep safe.
I think the port is my best bet.
But unfortunately, they're a little bit tougher to get the totem too. Since with Fox, you need to throw the totem onto the ground for it to be picked up. But once they have it, it doesn't matter what kind of polar bear gets nearby. They'll be left unscathed, or a very confused polar bear as well. Snow golems melt in the desert. That's not much of a surprise if you trust the Snow Knight can tell you that. But what you might be surprised to know is that if you use a fire resistance potion, it will allow your snow golems to survive in hot climates. And yes, that even includes the nether, as silly as it might seem. So if you have a couple of these lying around after a piglet bartering, you can set up a couple of snow golems, splash them with this, and use those to help you eviscerate through that blaze spawner. Just get ready for the rude awakening when the potion effect wears off, and you're left with nothing more than a pile of snowballs.
I guess we'll talk to everyone except for Napier.
Here's how to make your boat self-driving. All you gotta do is create a 3x3 area of water, and then place down a fence gate on this third block here. At which point we can break these blocks and cause the water to flow, and we'll have given ourselves an automatic way to drive our boats. If you need to quickly get rid of some fire in the nether, then a good way to do that is by brewing up a couple of splash water bottles. Since these not only extinguish ourselves when we catch on fire, but they can also clear this plus sign shape out of the fire that catches on the ground. So if you need to make sure that your items don't burn, it might help to throw down one of these. That way, even if you burn alive, at least your stuff won't. If you're building a farm, you might want to use mud blocks instead of grass or dirt. And the reason
looks like I do need to talk to Napier as well in the end.
Smaller in their hitbox than grass or sand blocks. And all that one pixel means is that items are actually able to be pulled through a hopper. There you have it, just that simple change. Our whole farm design just got so much cheaper. And not to mention the rates get better as well. Really, for the price of crafting a water bottle, it's worth doing this at your next farm. Let's say you need to move your pet dog, but you don't want to risk it dying while you're running across the treacherous landscape. Well, no worries, Raceworks has it covered. Since by attaching your pet to a lead that lead to a fence post, we can use a piston like this so that when the item despawns, then your pet will suddenly teleport that long distance just like that. And through the help of a chunk loader like this one, we can make sure that this design never unloads. That way, with whatever timer you build, it's gonna work just fine. And most importantly, it means your feline is ready to travel thousands of blocks, all without having to move a muscle. Can't say I'm not a little bit jealous. If you live in a village, keep this one in mind. Since by attaching an observer or pressure plate next to your bed with the bell getting powered, that will make sure that when we wake up, the bell will ring, and the villagers stay inside long enough.
Oh yeah, I need to talk to the bar people, not just the bar lady.
A few residual zombies, and you'll have a couple of zombie villagers burning out there as well. So if you already killed the iron golem around here, then the least you can do for the villager population is put in this bell system. And we all avoid the rude awakening of having your village be completely ransacked by zombies. If you're able to find food on land, great, but we're not always so lucky. Instead, you might have a better chance of going to find yourself a river so that you can kill salmon. For one, they're super easy to kill. Just the right stone tool, you can kill one in one lap. And not to mention that even when you get rid of all the salmon inside of the river, you come back later, they do respawn inside of the water. Oh, and they also have a small chance of dropping bone meal, which can itself be useful in finding yourself a food source that's renewable on land. And look, I'm not someone who likes seafood, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Suspicious stew is a great food source, but it's not great to craft, especially when you can't stack them. So if you can't easily hold on to a stack of suspicious stew, the next best thing is to get yourself a mushroom. Not just anyone, but if you shock it with lightning, sorry little guy, and then feed it the flower of your choice, preferably a dandelion, because it's the best one. And that's how you get an infinite amount of suspicious stew. Though worth mentioning is that the flower only works once per. So if you wanted 64 saturation suspicious stew, you need 64 dandelions. Luckily, those are easier to farm than the other suspicious stew. It's a simpler trade-off. Smoke sensors are very useful, but they're also very noticeable. But if you want to keep their function while losing that fidelity, then it's worth noting that by waterlogging a smoke sensor, then they'll be silent, but still behave normally. Now granted, this doesn't make them entirely discreet, since the sound waves are still visible, but as we can verify from the Minecraft subtitles, there's no sound that's given off from the smoke sensor itself when we do this. Now when you're trying to use a smoke sensor for a hidden trap like this, then anything you can do to make it less noticeable is going to go a long way. After all, it just takes one little detail for them to notice and the whole operation to go belly up. And for the price of a water bucket, I'd rather stack those odds in our favor. Whether you're playing on easy or hard mode, mob-roofing is an essential chore on your to-do list. And while light level can't work, it isn't as much of an option for Nether. So if you're trying to get food to stop spawning in your travel tunnels or next to your fortress farm, then an easy-to-get solution is a moss carpet. Now initially, it might seem ridiculous to try and put vegetation next to lava, but apparently, moss carpet doesn't burn, making it pretty ideal for the lava landscape. Though I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that even though this doesn't burn next to lava, flowing lava will still break these the same as flowing water. But as long as you keep that in mind, you'll be safe. or safer at least. If you want to fix your item stream, consider adding a slab in place. Since this Dockham showed off on Hermitcraft, just add one of these in to make it easier for our items to stack
Don't like my
together. And now the colonial
rewards.
entities will wait until they have enough mass to eventually get pushed over. And that'll also help you get some more space in between your items.
Yeah, that's just shit ton of formaldehyde.
Move so slowly. And perhaps the real icing on top of all of this is that when you have multiple item
I'm just
entities
hoarding
combined
them.
into one single stacked item entity, that'll help to reduce lag as well. Which for the price of half a cobblestone block, it's hard to say that isn't worth it. Fire makes for a great decoration in your builds, but fire spread could also ruin your builds. So how do you find a happy medium? Well, the answer comes with Soulfire. Since with this, even if fire tick is enabled, it doesn't matter because Soulfire will never spread. And while you do obviously change out the color for this example, that's a small sacrifice for keeping the rest of your base safe. And come on, it's not like the blue fire looks terrible anyway. I really think that we're making an improvement on both fronts. And at the very least, you can build that new fireplace in your house without having to tear your hair out. We all know bone meal can be a very useful tool to have, but sometimes getting enough of it can be a real hassle. So to keep your farms fueled and supplied going forward, how about we get a bit more creative and turn stone right into
I can't sell the mushroom
I know,
dagger?
that sounds crazy, but as members of the community have found out, we can use the new moss functionality to turn stone generators into bone meal farms. And just like that, we've got a self-sustainable bone meal farm that's sure to provide plenty more for your farms in the future. And John mentioned we trade with piglins like this. On a Bedrock Edition, we do
Unless I have two of it
faster.
now.
And the reason for that is that if you place down 2 observers to create an infinite clock, and then attach to that a sticky
sure
crystal
do.
with a gold block on top of it, then when you throw the gold to the piglins to trade, you'll see that they're trading every single tick that's
These
possible.
are just
So if you've
wasting
got enough gold to fund it,
inventory
that's a
slots,
payout.
so-
You give yourself quite the show. With a pillar of scaffolding like so and an observer up top, we can effectively use this to send redstone signals upward like so. All we have to do is have a trapdoor underneath the top of the scaffolding, and that way when the
I
lights on the
can't
bottom
sell
of the
them,
day,
then
that
I'll
signal
just
will
throw
move
them
across
away.
the top of the system until eventually it's detected by an observer and get the redstone signal up there. Though I will mention that unlike using walls for this, the higher the scaffolding, the longer the input delay. But with the simplicity and compactness of this design, I think it makes up for this trade-off and then some. Now, nether portals aren't a necessity, but I can do without the zombified piglins spawning in them. So if you're like me and you're also sick of those unwanted visitors, then with just a turtle-like place like so, we can bait them away from the portal. So sure, it doesn't stop them from spawning, but I'd rather treat the problem than learn how to live with it. As long as the turtle egg isn't placed on a beach to grow up, it's not going to hatch, and the baby turtle won't object to it either. And if you take the setup from the piglin farm and switch out the gold block for a lightning rod, then when you throw a channeling trident on top, every time that it goes up and down, it'll strike lightning right on the source, giving you an infinite lightning farm and a workplace hazard if you step too close, which you can then use as a mob converter of sorts. Or if you're crazy, you could do like we did and kill the wither with lightning. It just might take a few attempts. Having chests that we can put in our boats is a great thing, but you might be better using a llama instead, since not only will max storage llamas still let us have some storage, but we can also put a friend on the back of the llama and keep up the same number of seats. That way we're not trading containers for company. Don't worry about getting yourself an iron sword. Instead, just 3 stone and some sticks. The stone axe will do you much better. And if you're able to critical hit and time your attacks just right, you can easily kill off a lot of mobs. And partner with that shield that you just crafted, now you'll be covered in both the offense and the defense, all without having to get more than a single piece of iron. When 1.14 rolled around, it gave us a very solid way to defend our bases from enemies. With
Maybe
its
it
weird
was just a
hitbox,
fluke.
we're able to walk through just fine. The mob AI struggles a bit to make it past the chutes, which is great, but a bamboo barricade doesn't fit in every build. So luckily, we've got something a bit more metal to use instead. Through the help of the copper lightning rods, we can place a couple of these down and get ourselves a mob-proof gate. And hey, if you think about it, they basically turn into an electric fence as well. Though maybe that's better at fending off zombies than creepers. But with a cat to keep those away, this safety solution is definitely worth a try. If you're playing on Bedrock Edition and hold down Shift and Jump at the same time on your keyboard, then as you start placing down blocks, it's possible to build a tower 16 blocks high, all without ever leaving the ground. Which at that point, how would you ever need scaffolding? This seemed to do the trick just fine. At first glance, this jump seems impossible, and really, it should be. But the truth is that if you happen to turn 45 degrees exactly while you're midair in the jump, then that'll let you jump 2% further than you would normally, which sounds imperceptible, but it's enough to make this jump. Though I can't stress enough how difficult this is to do. And that's why we featured in the impossible skills video. Without the help of something like a mod like Tweakaroo, I'd have no chance of pulling this off. But if you can, it just might help you in a pinch. Whether you're playing a game of Manhunt or trying to prank your friend, everyone loves a good trap. And with the help of the Dripstone Fallen Entity, we can make a particularly effective one. As it's coded, a dripstone falling from a height of 40 blocks box will do the maximum amount of damage. Though, as soon as it goes through an end portal, the fall height doesn't reset. But rather, whoever goes through the gate next to me, quite the deadly surprise on the other end. Even with a diamond helmet, the odds are that your friend's still going to get skewered the same way. So if you're looking to make the end off limits, then a couple of stalactites might just finish the job. You can't see it, but there's a hidden ladder here, and it's not one that we made with sticks, but rather with the way that vines and maps overlap, we can mix together an item frame and a map to make our vines completely invisible and the map climbable, which could make it easier to do something like building out your large map on a wall, or better yet, for a hidden entrance. You don't even have to go that far. You want a reason to do this? Now none of your friends can rotate that map art to make it look bad, since the vine's hitbox is slightly larger than the item frames. And when you got destructive friends like me, that's worth the price of admission on its own right. Instead of using chests, use barrels instead. Since, for one, they're cheaper to craft, they cost you one less plank for each recipe, and they're also great for small bases, since even if you have a solid block on top of them, you're still able to open them up. And while we can't double their size like we would a regular chest, it's also important to note that if you get a lot of these, they aren't rendered as entities like the rest of the chests. So they cause a lot less lag if you build yourself a barrel monster instead of a chest monster. Now, I know that composters don't seem like the most helpful of items, but that might just be because you're using them wrong. Since what you need to understand is that the first item that you put into the composter is always guaranteed to fill up the first level. And that's regardless of the item that you're composting. So if you want the maximum efficiency when you're using your composter for bone meal, first put in an item with a low chance of composting for the first stage, and then use higher chance items like pumpkin pie for the rest of the way. That way you're saving these higher chance items for where they're actually useful, which might not make composters the most useful block yet, but even if they're not useful, at least you know how to use them now. Most players think of doors as just that, a door. But folks, there's so much more than that. Since in Java Edition, you can use these doors for some pretty important things. Like if you're underwater, you can place one of these down and have yourself a standing safe bubble of air. Or you can also place one of these down and use it to confuse hostile mobs that are coming towards you. For example, if you're in a cave and a skeleton starts shooting at you, place down the door and the mob's probably going to lose track of you. And if you flip the door just right, you can actually use this to scale up a 2-block tall jump, helping you get out of a cramped space or up to a new one. Terraforming a biome is not a simple task, which is too bad, because there really are some great results changing around and creating your own custom biome. So why don't we try and find the easy way out? So, for the sake of an example, how about we try to take the gray hues out of Mushroom Fields biome and make them a bit more colorful? And for that, moss is a classic candidate. Since this block loves to replace the ones around it, all we need is a ton of bone meal and plenty of dedication to get the job done. And just like so, we can transform fungus to flora and make this biome a lot more lush to see. And hopefully the mushrooms will like it as much as we do. If you're looking for the fastest way to mine in Minecraft, then you're gonna need this on your leggings. Since even though dive mine has become less popular since its inclusion, with the addition of the Swift Sneak enchantment, now it's worth doing again, because the name's misleading. It doesn't just give you a swift sneak, but also gives you a swift crawl. And with Swift Sneak 3 in our leggings, we can get some real speed when we're mining in a 1-block tall tunnel. As long as you don't have claustrophobia, it's worth adding to your to-do list. At the very least, it gives you a reason to go down to the ancient cities, because if we're being honest, the recovery compass isn't worth it. Instead of planting your crops outside, you tuck them down in a cave. Now, I know crops need light and sunshine and all that, but that's actually the point. Because if you were to plant your crop farm underneath a redstone lamp like this, then when it's time to harvest, all you gotta do is flip a lever on that switch, and all of the crops will be harvested in an instant. At which point, you can turn back on the light, plant all your crops, and get ready to do the same again next week. Making Minecraft builds automatic can often be a tough problem to solve. At the very least, it's not usually that compact. But drip leaf might just be the golden opportunity. Now, clearly, when you stand on these for too long, they're sure to give way to gravity. But what you might not know is that if you stand put just like such, then it's possible to use this as a time trap door and put the player right into a crawl